Matthew, John, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm glad you were able to look into my show and decide to come on. You're in for a treat, and I'm sure I'm in for a treat. I've liked what I see from you. I've listened to some of the videos that have been put up that have your words of wisdom on the Higher Self YouTube channel, among other channels, and I realized as soon as I saw what this guy has to offer, he's definitely worthy of being a guest on my show. I said I'd use your website as a guide, although I think it may actually make more sense for me throughout this hour-long interview in which I'd like to cover many subjects on the fly, to use your YouTube channel, You Are Divine Human, as a guide, and look at the titles of the videos that you've put up, and we can give a nice abridged version, I guess, of everything you said in all those videos and highlight the important points, and I will ad-lib and add things to make the expose the nature of reality much, much better than anyone else could, I'm sure. Nobody has a more difficult time understanding the nature of reality than me. That's why I am the host of this show. So without, actually,
yeah,
first of all,
sounds good.
I might as well. Okay, first of all, you can introduce yourself and tell us how you became what you are. What did you experience from a primary source perspective that allowed you to become the spiritual wisdom teacher that you are?
Well, first of all, thank you for, your very kind introduction, and thank you for inviting me on your show. I've been really looking forward to this all week, so I'm excited to be here. My name is Matthew John. I am a spiritual teacher, but I'm also an intuitive healer. So there's kind of two sides to my work. There's the teaching side and the healing side, and they also, they work together because when people do come to me for sessions, and I do work with people worldwide, there's a lot of, it's not just healing work, but it's also a lot of teaching, because I really want to help people to become empowered, to have the types of tools that I've learned over the years. And, how I've learned it, it's been a combination of a lot of research and a lot of just firsthand experience and trial and error in life. I've been on this awakening journey, Andrew, for almost 10 years, and it started, as a lot of awakening journeys do start out of, life not being so much fun. And it started from a breakup. And then it kind of, I had a chronic illness type issue that began. And those two things really are what propelled me to seek out any ways that I could help myself. And in the process, I was being guided to really find all sorts of books that, the me before these things had happened would never have even seen. And to seek out, also information on the internet, and to really just to become as knowledgeable as possible about the way the world really works, the expansiveness of not just, Earth, but we're living in a galactic community, and also just spiritual knowledge about, how do we become more at peace? How do we become happier? How do we become more loving, heart-centered beings? So that's in a gist of it. And the last, 10 years, it's just accelerated. It's continued to accelerate to at the point that I'm at now. My work is really, it's my passion, it's my livelihood, that and my dog. Those are the two biggest livelihoods in my life. And it consumes most of my time because I love it so much. It's just, I couldn't see myself doing anything else really at this point. I've gotten to the point where this is who I am. This is my purpose, to be a teacher and to be a healer, and to spread, my knowledge and my experience and my love to as many people as I can. And of course, I myself am always still going through an awakening process and a healing process. So, the me that is presenting itself to the world now, I'm sure a year from now it will be totally different. So that's what's exciting.
I'm excited to have you, and these are some exciting topics and subjects we have to discuss here. Looking at your YouTube channel, I guess we'll
Yeah.
start from the oldest going to the newest. Don't have to cover all of them. And again, this is just an abridged statement.
Whatever you want to do, Andrew.
First of all,
It's your
the
show.
oldest one, how to harness the incredible power of your intuition. Now,
Yeah.
recently researched this a little bit more, looking at the work of Carrie Samuels with some exercises she offered from a meditation standpoint to make sure that your intuition is on par. When it comes to intuition, though, my biggest question mainly would be how can you make sure that you're not getting sabotaged by some sort of an entity or psychic attack to make that's trying to make you get the wrong info?
Okay. Sure. Well, that falls under the very broad and extremely crucial topic of discernment, which is something that I'm very passionate about helping people to understand and get better at, because I myself went through a period where I was listening to some guidance that was not actually very good guidance. And for me, it wasn't, as far as I know, it wasn't an entity, and it didn't feel like that. It was just actually my ego. So I think it's far more common, actually, Andrew, that when people are receiving guidance that's not really accurate, it's not actually coming from an entity or any sort of attack. And those can happen, I'm sure. I haven't had any direct experience with people, who, like, for sure we were like, oh yeah, that was that. More often it's coming from someone's ego. And because, just like, we can do so much with our imagination, right? And I'll give you an example that anyone can, recall. Is there a time in your life, and not just you, I'm just talking to whoever hears this, is when you were worried about something, right? And you were worried about it, and you started creating the worst case scenarios in your mind. And then maybe you actually started to believe, right, that the worst case scenario was going to happen or was happening. And then, of course, everything turned out to be fine, and it was just your imagination, right? Well, that can happen a lot when we're trying to access intuition. And there's a couple of keys that I'll give for everyone. Is one, are you trying to get intuition, or are you just being an open vessel for intuition to come to you? So when we're trying to find answers, what happens is our conscious intention is now directing our subconscious mind to look for answers. So what happens is you can often just end up latching on to the first kind of thing that you see out there that looks like it's an answer. And if you're more wired in that time towards fear, it may be a fearful answer or something that's of a lower vibration. Even if you're wired towards you could also be in the other direction, which happened to me, is when you're wired in kind of everything I do turns to gold kind of thing, and you believe your intuition is telling you to do something, and you're overstepping your bounds. You're going too far with something, and that's a manifestation of ego. So when you're not looking for answers so hard, that's when you tend to get answers, and there's a timing mechanism to it. So we have a question. You have a question in this moment, and you believe that you need to know the answer to that question in order to be safe, happier, or more content, or more satisfied. And this is just how the human mind works. We're beings that are wired to seek pleasure and to try to avoid pain. So oftentimes we believe that the way to avoid more pain or to get more pleasure is to know an answer about something. And usually, a lot of times what happens is the answer to that comes, but it comes later. And the reason that it becomes later is, one, because a lot of times when we're looking for an answer right away, we don't actually have all the information, because we're not at the point in our timeline, our linear timeline, when all of the information has been gathered or all of the circumstances have happened yet. So we're trying to prematurely figure something out. And then the other thing is that when we're looking for answers, it's usually it's kind of out of this energy of desperation. And that's going to, again, it's going to cause you to subconsciously latch onto something. And it if that's what's happening, it's probably going to be coming from your ego. The ego likes to come in through the back door, so to speak. Okay, it comes in through the back door, and it can become a facade intuition. The other thing, and I taught an entire webinar a couple months ago on intuition, is everyone's intuition works differently. Every single person's intuition works differently. For me, the way my intuition works is I receive concepts, and I receive these concepts that are very clear to me, but I don't receive them in like words and sentences. I don't receive them in pictures. I just receive the concepts, and then I am able to just instantly decode them into words. For other people, a lot of people do work like this as well, and this is more of a crown chakra type intuition. But a lot of people, it's more of a feeling inside the body. I also do get those feelings inside the body. I get certain like buzzes, that are there. It's like a vibration throughout my body, and that can be a confirmation to me. I can also have a confirmation of like a yes. And the other side of that, I can also get like kind of like an eerie feeling in my body, and then I have to decipher, is this fear or is this my intuition saying, be careful about this, or I'm not so sure about this, right? So, and then some people receive guidance actually like in their head, and it's in words. Now, some people are able to receive that and have it be accurate. I've encountered more people actually that receive that kind of stuff and it's not accurate. And it's not necessarily coming from entities, it's coming from their ego just coming through the back door. And it's because it's like whatever the reason is because whatever is unresolved as far as, the ego structures. We're on this journey of the ego structures having to every ego structure has to be dissolved back into the light, has to be dissolved back into the light of the soul. So it's a common theme that someone can reach a certain point in their spiritual journey and believe that there are no more ego structures left, or believe that they're kind of done with that. And then what happens is the ego can find ways to come in through the back door. It can come in through the masks of maybe other people who are, not so nice. It can also come in the form of as facade guidance coming in your head. So that's why I tell people to be very careful of things you receive in your head. Some people receive guidance outside of their head, like they hear a spirit or a guide talking to them outside of their head. That's not something that happens to me. Some people receive guidance through pictures. Okay, that is something that I also do get in touch with once in a while, but for me, it's more concepts. So there's all sorts of different ways. People get smells. That's not something I get, but people do get smells, and for them it has some sort of meaning. So it's different for everyone. But if you keep those two things in mind, is am I looking for an answer, or can I just sit back and I will know when I'm meant to know? Okay, it's much more. Here's another rule of thumb. When your nervous system is relaxed, it is much, much, much more likely to be a real intuitive piece of information you're getting, however you get it. When your nervous system is not relaxed, when you're anxious, fearful, when you're looking like out of desperation, looking for something, okay, when you're angry, anything like that, you can almost guarantee it's not accurate. So I hope that helps.
Very much so. And also, how to attract everything you want. Skipping over a couple of videos here, we can't do them all, but this
Sure.
is certainly worth discussing because
Yeah.
a couple of issues about this regarding like the things that you attract, whether it's just specifically for you or whether it's you and then some. Now, what I'm talking about is this is kind of pertinent to what is probably going to be expected in 2019 with being the year of disclosure, and that's not me talking, that's Brad Johnson, who channels the Dronus, talking, saying that 2019 is probably going to be the year where a lot of stuff comes out that makes sheeple angry and makes the whistleblowers say, "We told you so." And now, when it comes to attracting things we want, now the people like me who have been trying to spread this truth out for a long time and don't get much of a reward for it, except for a few views on YouTube. We are definitely want that to come out, so we are attracting like the stuff that the sheeple don't want to hear, we want to hear. Now, this is a case of something happening on a global scale, so it's not really, or is it, something that you've attracted through the law of reflection, law of attraction? And on a more lighter note, when it comes to attracting what you want, how does the universe decide whether you're or not you're being a little too greedy, for lack of a better word? Like if you do a meditation to ask the money angels, so to speak, for
Sure.
a little bit
Yeah.
of money up in money heaven, because I do this meditation often. I'm wondering, okay, how do the people who made this meditation know that this is actually going to result in a decent amount of money attained by the people
Sure.
who use it? How does the creator or source or the angels know, like whether or not you're deserving to get the amount of money or something of value to that money, if it's not money,
Yeah.
without overindulging you?
Yeah. So you gave me a lot there.
Take it bit by
What?
bit, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. So the law of attraction is in reality, it's a lot more complicated than it can be made out to be, or it can seem like it is. There's kind of that idea out there that, well, to get the things I want in my life, all I have to do is, ask for it, visualize it, pray for it, and then let go of the outcome and see it manifest. First of all, the most difficult part in that, and the part that most people, and even myself, don't do so well, is letting go of the outcome. Because we all want, the reason you have a desire is because you want to see it manifest. So it's almost unnatural, being a human being, to see this law of attraction as, visualize it, pray for it, talk about it, and then let go. It's not easy, okay? But what I mean by it's much more complicated is that that's just looking at it from a personal level. So it's just looking at it with the guise that, or with the hypothesis that what I receive depends only on me. And that's just not true, because we're living on a planet with 8 billion of us. 8 billion of us that are all hooked into the same grid. And it's not just the light workers. It's not. It's every single human being, no matter if they're on a spiritual awakening journey or they are totally asleep. Everyone is in this morphogenetic field that makes up planet Earth. So, and then the other part of it is that everyone has a life plan. Everyone has a plan that your soul has put together for you before incarnation. So the things that come to you are pretty much because they were meant to come to you. And it doesn't actually really matter so much, it is my belief, whether you do the number of meditations you do, the amount of praying you do, the amount of asking, visualizing vision boards you do, as much as whatever is meant to come to you at a certain time is going to come to you. Because, again, it's not just your life plan. Every single person you ever meet, you're tied together. It's like your life plans they crisscross at different points. If you imagine your life plan being like this line from age 0 to age whatever, hopefully 5,000, however long you want to live, right? And then every single person that you interact with keeps crossing your line, and you're crossing their lines. And it creates this intricate web of actions, of things that happen, of occurrences. So this is why, have you ever had the experience of meeting someone that a stranger, and you just felt like you hit it off with them, right? You just felt like, wow, I've been waiting for this person for a long time. And maybe they end up being a romantic partner, or maybe they just end up being a friend, or maybe you have a conversation with them and you never see them again. But you can you get that sense when that happens? Like, this feels like it was kind of meant to be. Like, I was kind of meant to be in this place. And this happened to me just a couple months ago. I met someone at the local health food store, and I just knew I was supposed to meet this person. And I thought to myself, look at all the things that I could have done differently before this, that I would not have met this person. You know, if I had taken a different route from my acupuncture clinic to the health food store and arrived 2 minutes later, I would have missed this person. And it was just wild to me, you know, and it's confirmation when those sorts of synchronicities happen, that there's something higher going on than just what I'm choosing in every moment. So that's why I say it's far more complicated than just from a personal level, asking, allowing, receiving. Now, it is important to ask and to pray and to do what you can to visualize. And then when it comes, you know, you can say, maybe I did do something, but maybe you didn't. You know, that's what I want to get out there, is maybe you didn't. Maybe you did, but maybe you didn't. Maybe it was just meant to happen. So when we relate this to a global scale, and you talk about, you know, you yourself wanting to get this information out there and not really receiving much of a reward for it. Well, first of all, you know, the reward part of it, that's an ego construct that is still acting for people who are there, because the reward for putting out the information is really putting out the information, because the potentiality that someone might see it, that one person might see it, and that might have some sort of positive effect on their journey, that's a reward in and of itself, right? And as far as, you know, why are more people not getting on board with that kind of stuff? Well, people can only get on board with whatever they are vibrationally able to get on board with. So for something like disclosure, from my perspective, I don't believe that it's going to, that I don't see that as the saving grace of the planet. And I know some people do. They see it as, oh, this, you know, when the aliens come and land on the White House lawn, everything's going to be great. And that's actually, it's another ego delusion of, I need something to happen on the outside in order for me to be okay. And really what we're here to do, we're here to transform this from the inside out. You know, we're here as like little, you know, I don't know, like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, like characters who are sneaking around. And really, just by our presence, we start to transmit these codes of awakening. And the world begins to wake up at its own pace. And the world begins to wake up individually, every single person, however, what's in their life plan. If it's in their life plan to awaken during this lifetime, they will. But for a lot of people, it's not in their life plan. It won't happen in this lifetime, or it will happen much later in this lifetime. So everyone has to be allowed to wake up at their own pace. So, and if you're able to do that, it frees you. It frees you from believing in any way that you're not doing all that you can, because you only can do what you can do. You only can put the information out there, you know, what you're doing with the show, and you have all these amazing healers out there. And yeah, I know, you know, maybe you'd like to have more people viewing these videos, and I would like you to as well, but you do what you can do, and you know, you do what you can do to promote it and get it on maybe different platforms, but it just is what it is until it is more. And I know that's a very kind of basic Eckhart Tolle-ish type, or I don't know, Dalai Lama type of statement, but it really, that's what frees you from any illusion that you're not doing enough.
Well, just put yourself out there and hope, hopefully the best will eventually manifest at some point or another. And
Well,
well,
more than that, Andrew, the best is always manifesting in every moment. There is no moment is deficient of the best. That is an illusion, another illusion of ego. And that's an illusion that we're all growing out of step by step. There is no deficiency in any moment. So this moment right now, the number of people that are awake on this planet is exactly the number of people that are able to be awake on this planet. And furthermore, it's exactly the number of people that should be awake on this planet right now. It should not be any different than it is now, because it isn't. If it were different, then it would be different. And I know that's seems very basic, but if you could feel the energy of it, what it is, that's the energy of alignment. That's the energy of alignment with source. The universe does not make any mistakes. Only we believe in mistakes. But the universe, there are actually no mistakes.
that you're not the first one to say that. You're not. A lot of others have asserted everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, moving on to another one I see here: how to maintain a high vibration around others. Well,
Yeah.
like to quote George Sylvasis, just be. Okay, well, fine. I can be infinite consciousness and act like I understand that, but how am I supposed to just be? What's the proper way of doing that? Am I supposed to constantly dwell and think about being and constantly dwell on energy
No.
radiating from my heart chakra as I go about
No.
life, or is there a simpler
No.
way to do it? Yeah.
There is a simpler way to do it. I'm
What
so
is that
glad you
way?
asked this. The simpler way to do it is to just be, but to be like, I will give you this example, is how does a child know how to be? How does a dog know how to be, right? Do you have a dog or a cat?
No, I do not have any
Okay.
pets.
All right. Children. Have you been around children, recently, or can you remember a time?
I am still single. Hopefully, I'll find my dream girl according
Me
to some
too.
psychics.
Me
Okay.
too. It's okay. Okay, but anyways, children and dogs. Just for two examples, I know some people don't like dogs and some people don't like children, but they just naturally kind of can radiate this really high vibration, right? And what does it really mean to be in a high vibration? There's different ways of kind of categorizing it, but any way we attempt to categorize what it means to be in a high vibration, it is, again, I know I'm saying this a lot, but it really is an illusion of the mind, of the ego, because the mind wants to categorize everything, because the mind believes, and actually the ego believes, that if it can understand everything, then it is more safe. That's the core belief as to why the mind tries to categorize everything. So the mind wants to categorize, am I at a high vibration? Am I not at a high vibration? So we don't want to walk around like self-monitoring whether we're at a high vibration. The simplest way and the most effective way is I intend to live my life with integrity. I intend to live my life with integrity. And Andrew, it's really funny. I was planning on, in my stream of words, I was actually planning on using a different word there. The word I was going to use was love. But this word to me is very powerful, and it's very intentional, is to live my life with integrity. So may all my actions and all my words be in my highest integrity. And when all of your actions and are in your highest integrity, what you're doing is you're acting from the highest part of you that can act in any moment. You're speaking from the highest part of you that can speak in any moment. Just like we talked about before, you can't ever be more than you are able to be in any given moment, but you can put in maximum effort into embodying the highest part of you. And then again, we don't want to walk around and say, oh, was I acting from my highest integrity all day? What is my grade? I give myself a B today for acting. No, we don't want to do that. We just want to try our best. And actually, while I'm saying this, I'm recalling one of Don Miguel Ruiz, his first book, The Four Agreements. What were the two? I don't remember the four of them, but two of them were do your best and I forget, do your best and something to do with like living from your highest integrity, I believe. But anyways, do your best and live and to be your highest integrity in any moment. And sometimes that means it doesn't always mean you're responding with like some soft, loving, very soft, meek tonality. So sometimes being in your highest integrity might mean to be very stern with someone who has come into and kind of crossed over a boundary you might have. Maybe someone said something to you that is abusive, right? And this happens most commonly with women. A lot of women that come to me for private sessions, they have this. A lot of women who are on the spiritual journey, they get the impression that, they can't speak up, they can't say anything that's less than loving. But no, if someone's being abusive, then you walk away. You say, I'm not going to take this. I have to walk away. And you walk away, right? That is living in your highest integrity. Maybe it's if you see a piece of garbage on the street and you know what? You don't have time to pick it up. You have to get to your appointment. So you don't pick it up. And you might be thinking, what the hell are you talking about? That's not living in your highest integrity. You could have picked it up. What if you didn't have time? What if it was more in your integrity to keep this appointment you had with this person? And then maybe the next time you walk down the street and you see that piece of garbage and you have time, then you pick it up and you throw it out as a service to, your town or your city. So just do the best you can. Live with integrity, with your highest integrity. And, love, it plays an important part. Absolutely. But we don't necessarily need to go around and hug every single person. There are people, there was that lady that she walked across, she's like Forrest Gump, except she walks across the U.S. and she just hugs people. And that's her thing. And that's awesome. But if every single person in the U.S. was just hugging people, no one would get anything done. The sewers would be backed up. They wouldn't fill the potholes. So everyone just you do your best. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes, and I can very much relate to that garbage pickup thing. I love picking up litter, but very often I'm on the move, so I run
So
into that thing all
you
the
do
time.
the best that you can. And then the other part of this that I neglected to get to was self-forgiveness, is because here's the thing that we can look at in the spiritual journey is, if you tend to be very judgmental towards the world, and even judgmental towards things that most people are judgmental towards, like, I don't know, Trump, governments, toxic waste, the things that we don't want. But there is a time in the spiritual journey where you can learn to let go of judgments against even the most horrific things that are out there. And the more judgmental you tend to be against the things you see in the world, the more judgmental you tend to be against yourself. And so when we learn to let go of that harsh criticism, so many of us, and I know because I still work on this all the time, so many of us carry around this like harsh critic. It's like this really snarky movie critic, right, that lives inside your head, right? You know what I mean? And every time you do something that, maybe you made a mistake, or maybe you just, it didn't work out exactly as you wanted it to, there's that snarky movie critic, there to criticize you. And the more we can give ourselves more compassion, tolerance, the more tolerant, and also it works the other way. The more tolerant we can be with ourselves, the more tolerant we will be with the world. And the more tolerant we are with the world, it actually energetically unshackles us from the world. There's a lot of people on the spiritual journey who get caught up in fighting like the powers that be somehow, or believing they're fighting the powers that be. And really, we're not fighting the powers that be, because if you are, you're actually just getting drawn into that vibration. You're not fighting the powers that can be. You're modeling the new human. You're modeling something better. And energetically, that is like the 100th monkey syndrome. This is how it works. It allows others to begin waking up as well.
Thank you very much. I'd like to, I guess, kill two birds with one stone here. Seeing a couple videos,
Yeah.
apparent contradiction here, but maybe it's not. The first video, an exercise in non-duality, becoming a transmuter, and the yin and yang of manifestation. Now, this interesting thing about this is controversial spiritual teacher Lily Earthling Kosalova has said that the yin-yang symbol is a symbol we should not obsess or concern ourselves with because it's a symbol of duality. And she says there is better symbols out there, and she explains that in her video.
Okay.
And you seem to be interested in non-duality, considering you have an exercise in that, yet you use the term yin and yang in manifestation. I'm sure that you're just illustrating that the yin and yang is a fact of life. But how do you suggest we get rid of the duality? How do we become transmuters of non-duality? And what is exactly the yin and yang of manifestation, if you want to divide it into those two parts?
Sure. So how do we become transmuters of duality into non-duality? Is a lot of it is what we've been talking about already, is living more from the heart and becoming more tolerant. And what holds us in duality at its core is the judgment, the basic judgment that there is something that is less than divinity, that there is something out there that is less than divinity. So, when we see something terrible happen on the news, the judgment that 99.9% of people are tuned into is that this is less than divine. This is not right. This can't be right. And there can be no positive aspect to this. When, as we now move into non-duality, we realize that every piece of darkness is also light in disguise. And the reason that it's light in disguise is because what's happening is darkness is unconsciously always seeking the light. So it's unconsciously seeking to be transmuted back into the light. So in reality, there is just light. From a sense of non-duality, from a sense of oneness, there is only light. There is only that vibration of purity, right? But what happens is the separation has occurred for us to navigate the spiritual journey through polarity. Okay, if it was not for polarity on this planet, there would be no spiritual journey, because there would be, if we were all living already in just perfect harmony and perfect oneness in non-duality without any judgment, there would be nowhere to go. And the whole purpose of the spiritual journey is that we're moving from less spiritually mature beings to more spiritually mature beings, from beings more under the spell of polarity to beings less under the spell of polarity. So this really simple exercise, and this is exactly what I give you in that video of becoming a transmuter, is it's very ingrained in our society, especially in Western society, to when we see any sort of tragedy take place on the news, that we pray for the victim. We do. We, may this person get better. But at the same time, we shame the perpetrator, don't we? We shame the one who perpetrated the crime. If it's cancer, for example, we shame the cancer. We want to fight cancer. We want to get rid of cancer. We want to get rid of crime. And of course we do. We want to live on a planet where there are no health issues and there is no crime. And that's where we're going. There's absolutely nothing that could prevent us from going there. It's a long process. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Okay. The exercise of moving into non-duality is, may all be blessed, not just the victim, but may the perpetrator, may the cancer, may whatever it is also be blessed with light. What I like to say is, may the victim and the perpetrator be blessed with the light that they are seeking, or the light that they are unconsciously seeking. Because if you think about it logically, and I hope you can see that a lot of what I speak of is not just spiritual mumbo jumbo, it's very logical. So if we look at it logically, someone who is in such darkness that they are able to, hurt another being, whether it's a human or whether it's an animal or whether it's someone, working for a corporation who's earning money and at the same time polluting the planet or killing others, through whatever means. This is a person who is in darkness. This is a person who is in a very dark, dark place in their spiritual journey. So they are seeking light. They don't know that they're seeking the light. They're just acting out. But they're actually acting out on a spiritual level because they're seeking light. They're unconsciously seeking light. So when we say a prayer for both parties, we say a prayer, may the victim be healed and may the victim receive the light that they're seeking, and may the perpetrator receive the light that they're unconsciously seeking. Because let's take an example of when someone who hurts another person, right? The person who is doing the hurting, if they were on a spiritual journey, on a conscious spiritual journey, they wouldn't be doing the hurting probably, right? If they were in a place where they were embodying more light, then there's no chance that they would be doing that. So what we need is to pray for more light on this planet, which is exactly what's happening. It's happening anyways, whether we pray for it or not. But what happens when we do pray for all, and when I say all, I'm going to get radical here, even the reptilians, when we pray for them to receive the light that they are seeking, that's moving you into non-duality in the most gangster way. It really is. Because, whatever darkness you can think of, if you can just for a minute be able to pray for that darkness to receive the light that it's unconsciously seeking, that is moving you into non-duality, because your judgment of dark being less than divine is now just melting away. It's absolutely melting away. And, when we talk about the yin and the yang, there's a difference between what is right now and where we're going. And just because a symbol is of a polarity, it doesn't mean it's inherently bad or you shouldn't use it or focus on it. I mean, we have yin organs and we have yang organs, if anyone who's ever studied Chinese medicine a little bit, the body has an inherent yin and yang. We have a divine feminine and a divine masculine. And actually, really, I'm going to take this to a higher level. The divine feminine and the divine masculine I'm not talking about like twin flame stuff. I'm talking about just energies. These are the two energies that are fused into one that is source. They're like, it's like two snakes wrapped around each other, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Source is, it is oneness, but it is also a duality of divine masculine and divine feminine. It doesn't necessarily mean polarity is the separation that we see, the separation of dark and light, and of believing, falling under the spell that darkness is less than divinity. But the yin and the yang, and when I talk about the yin and the yang of manifestation, it's that, the yin part of it is the asking for it, the asking for it, the visualizing it. And the yang part is the action. We need that masculine energy of taking action. You can pray for something to happen. A common example is, praying for money. You can pray for money. You can do a money vision board. You can carry around pyrite and cowrie shells and whatever. But if there's no avenue for the universe to give you that money, it's not going to happen. I mean, the chances of someone just showing up at your door with a wheelbarrow of cash just because you asked for it, it's too, it just wouldn't happen. I mean, maybe it has happened. I don't know. And, please let me know if it has. But if you're also taking that young side, the masculine side of, providing an avenue for the universe to pay you, whether it's starting your own business, whether it's consciously going out there and looking on Craigslist for a better job, right? Then the universe has a way to bring you what you've been seeking. So hope that helps.
Yeah, it helps make sense of it. And this is something I'd like to try to make sense of. Are you really a product of your past? One of the more recent videos you've uploaded. Random question to ask there. A product of your past. Well, why not a product of your future, considering that time is said to be an illusion, everything happens all at once?
Right.
Or is that a silly way of looking at it? So, how do you make sense of this?
Andrew, either you secretly watched my video or your just intuition is spot on.
I did not watch the video.
I know you did, but that's exactly what the video is about. Is, we can see ourselves as a product of all the experiences, that have come in a linear fashion throughout our lives that have shaped us into the person that we are now, with the amount of wisdom that we have now, with the the understandings that we have now, and with the things that we have now, the place that we live and the relationships we have and the job and whatever. Or we can see it as where I am now is because who I am becoming in the future, it needs for me to be here right now in order to learn what I need to learn to be the person I will be in the future. And the way that we can prove that this is true is by looking at yourself now and then thinking back, I don't know, 5 years ago, 10, even sooner, even a year ago, right? And look at how much wiser you are now than you were a year ago. And, for people who aren't on the spiritual journey, maybe their wisdom, it takes longer to anchor. But for people who are on a conscious spiritual journey, for people who are listening to this, and for you and me, it happens quickly, doesn't it? So you look back a year ago and look how much wiser you are now. And then you can see, all those experiences that I went through that shaped who I am now, that shaped the wisdom that I have now and I'm able to embody now, or at least I'm learning or attempting to embody, it happened because of the experiences I went through. So that means there must be a future me, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5, 10 years from now, who needs the exact experiences that I'm going through now in order to learn the wisdom and be the more spiritual person that I am in the future. And Andrew, let's get really radical with this, and let's take this to a bigger, grander scale. Let's look at the planet Earth, okay? If we can say that, the person in my past, I can see now how I had to go through those experiences in order to become the person that I am now, to have the wisdom that I have now, to embody what I can embody now, then maybe planet Earth needs to go through exactly what she's going through with all of her inhabitants right now, because there's a future version of Earth 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line who has gone through all of this chaos on the outside, on the planet, and has gone through this awakening process. But all of that was necessary. All of that was necessary.
Well, of course, it happens for a reason, so it's necessary.
Yeah.
All right.
And the more, right. Andrew, sorry to interrupt, but, it's a lot of people kind of get that. There's a lot of people kind of like, all right, yeah, I know everything happens for a reason. I hate this, but everything happens for a reason. And that's okay. You can hate with all your energy what is going on in the present moment. But if you can also say, this is happening for a reason, that is powerful. And that is healing. That is healing to the cells in your body. And another thing is, and even the next step from that, let's say if you're going through something shitty that you don't like right now, and you can say, I hate this, but I know that this is happening for a reason. That is awesome. That's you're way ahead of most of the planet. But if you can even then take it further and say, I'm going through this because I need this, and feel it. If you could feel, oh yeah, you know what? This is happening for a reason. I've been here before. Have you ever had have you ever had like deja vu, right? Have you ever just stopped and had this weird feeling of deja vu and just like, yeah, right? And and felt like I've been here before. What if that moment of deja vu is because you're for a second you're seeing your life through the eyes of your higher self, from your soul, and you're seeing, oh yeah, I'm exactly where I need to be. And you might laugh, even though I have spent so much time, I might spend 95% of my time hating where I'm at, complaining about it in my head, complaining about it to other people, complaining about how the world is in my head or to other people. But then you have that one moment, but this is exactly where it's supposed to be. This is exactly how it's supposed to be. That is alignment. That is alignment. And what do you feel when you feel alignment? You feel relaxed. You feel like you're no longer fighting. You feel like you can just, take a breath, right? And just relax. Because you're where you need to be. Nothing's wrong. You're where you need to be. And the world is where it needs to be. And then it's also exciting. It's like, if the world is exactly where it needs to be right now, and there's no one except for maybe, I don't know, a psychic here and there who, for example, could have just seen that a fucking, sorry to swear, but a massive fucking hurricane just came out of nowhere, right? It was supposed to be category 1. It ended up being almost a category 5 and just obliterated poor Panama City and the Panhandle down there. No one saw it coming. But there has to be a lot of reasons on a spiritual level that this happened. There's cleansing going on. A lot of souls get released when these hurricanes come by. It's cleansing these old, like the Trail of Tears, the sublimation of the Native Americans, for example, and it creates a situation where people are able to give. Tragedy always creates a situation for people around the country to want to give and to want to pray and for the people in those communities, God forbid, hopefully no one, ends up dying. I think 2 people died, or I don't know, maybe it's more, but hopefully that's it, right? But for the people who do survive to come together as a community, to learn to love, to learn to help each other, there's always these very positive things that come out of these tragedies. And then it helps scientists to understand, wow, we really fucked up when we, were forecasting this hurricane. Maybe we have new information now that can help us in the future. There's always these positive aspects that come, and it's the positive aspect, the positive results of any occurrences that show you from a higher level, from a bird's eye view, why these things are happening. And there always are. Even from the darkest tragedies, there always are.
Well, on that note,
yeah, go ahead, please.
This raises an important question about getting back to the hurricane situation. I remember George Kavaslis always saying one of the worst things you can do is always think that it's HARP. They want you to think it's HARP because you give them power when you think it's HARP. But okay, if the storm was supposed to be Category 1 and then all of a sudden it morphed, I mean, is it really gonna give the powers that be power if you use common sense and logic and facts, knowing that it probably was that?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, your thoughts are not powerful enough to give power. No, I mean it's the opposite. It's using it as an example, and I do agree with you. I believe that it was HARP enhanced, just like Katrina. That it can help to awaken people, just like the chemtrails. The chemtrails. Let's look at the chemtrails as an example. Yes, they're physically harming people. Yes, they're blocking the sun. Yes, they're ugly as shit, right? But they are a tool also for us to awaken in masses. Because one of the parts of my awakening, Andrew, and you can tell me if it was you too, was to look up and start to see these trails and just intuitively know that this is not natural and to start to research, right? And it just opens up all these new Pandora's boxes of learning new things about how the world really works and about, and also about spirituality. So, it can be a tool of awakening, to talk about this, to talk about heart. It's good to talk about it. It's good to put it out there. And a lot of people will obviously ignore it or think it's crazy. And that's okay. That's fine because, that's where they're at. But for those, there might be a few people out there who say, this hurricane really did blow up really quickly in October, right? Maybe there was something to it. And I know also, on the Weather Channel, they were talking about how the water, or I think the air was unusually warm and maybe even the water. So we don't know for sure. I don't know if anyone can know for sure, unless someone discloses it, but it seems like it probably was. So I hope that can, at least gave a little from the point of view of the spiritual side of it.
Yes, and there's always the debate that people are always going to agree to disagree on whether or not we should expose and concern ourselves with what the bad guys are doing because you're giving them power if you think about
Yeah,
them.
so you know what? Yeah, let me address that because this is a great question, and I know I touched on it a little bit earlier when I talked about when you're fighting, you're falling into the trap, so to speak. So there's a balance to be had. There's a fine line between, and not only that is we play different roles. Okay, so your role is different than my role. My role is more on the spiritual side of things. Your role, Andrew, may very well to be, I don't know what you do outside this radio show. I haven't looked at your work enough, but maybe to be more of the putting information out there. And we need people in those roles. We need people to be the ones that are keeping people updated on HARP and 5G and Gwen and the Illuminati and Pizzagate and all this stuff, right? We need those people out there. But we also need people that are taking care more of the spiritual side, which is where I'm at. So, and then the other thing is when you're just putting information out there, and this is gonna go back to what I was talking about earlier, and I think you'll like this. Is that there's nothing inherently about that's making you fall into the trap. What can make you fall into the trap is your judgments of it, your judgments of this is bad, or even worse, feeling victimized by it. So if you're putting information out there and it is making you feel victimized, then it is actually going to be more in your personal higher good to either, better off is to overcome that feeling of victimhood and to realize that you're not a victim, that you are an embodiment of source energy, and you're here to model something better than what's going on, at least from the old structures of the planet. But if someone's not able to do that, then it's going to be better off for them to just ignore what's going on. So I'm going to use a real common example is, people, we have a very interesting president here in the United States, don't we, right? He's very interesting. And a lot of people, they find themselves fascinated and they cannot turn off the news. They cannot keep off Facebook and seeing what he's doing. And they get angry. They're getting angry about it. And that anger it's a manifestation of feeling victimized because you're feeling unsafe. And then one of the first reactions of ego is to get angry. Why is this happening? This should not be happening. I should not be feeling unsafe because of this, right? So if you can see some information that is out there and to just say, okay, all right, this is what it is. This is what it is. But I don't feel victimized by it. I don't feel victimized by anything I read out there anymore. I used to feel victimized by it. I used to feel fearful of it and scared of it. I don't anymore. The reason being is because I don't judge it to be less than. I don't judge it to be less than what should be happening. It is just what it is. And it's good that people become aware as long as they're not falling into that thing of anger and victimization. Because even if a large number of people fell into, like, if there was some sort of like mass disclosure of information, okay, here's what I predict would happen. First of all, I do believe that a large number of people, maybe even the majority, would not believe it because they have been so programmed and they're so asleep in the system and they're so high on their pharmaceuticals and their fluoridated water and whatever that they just wouldn't believe it. They would not believe it. If there was a large number of people who did hear this and were suddenly all up in arms, angry, it's unlikely that there would be enough to like overthrow the whole system, because that's not how it's meant to go down. From my perspective, from what I see, it is a spiritual revolution. It is a spiritual revolution, and then we let the people that are on the inside take it down from the inside. You know, however that happens, that's not my area of expertise. I'm just kind of a curious observer. But it is a spiritual revolution. So we focus on how can we become more aligned with our highest integrity, with our highest love. Can we let go of judgments of what's going on out there? And if you can't let go of judgments, then really it is in your better interest to just turn a blind eye to it. It really is. And to just work on yourself. If you can kind of monitor it without falling into feeling victimized by it, then go ahead. But if you can't really, and I went through a period of this the last couple of years especially, I really stopped paying attention to most of what is going on and most of the information that's out there. You know, I will, when it comes on Facebook, I read it, but I don't feel victimized by it. So that's the difference.
Thank you. I'd like to, in these last 8 minutes, try to cover 3 videos. Okay, one of the videos is a 3 simultaneous ascension processes. Before we do that, there's the Are You Ready and Are You Willing videos. Are you willing to change, and are you ready for your highest destiny to unfold? They would be somewhat related.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very pertinent to me and a lot of other people from an astrological point of view regarding what's going on in the sky, but also down here on Earth. I had a recent incident where I had a praying mantis on my door, and when I looked that up on the internet, it said changes are about to happen. Okay. So this is something that's going on up above, down below for me and a lot of other people. And are we ready and willing? Now, you don't have the right to be a slave, some assert, because if you want to be a slave, then you're making it easier for the powers that be to control everybody else. So you're harming everybody by wanting to be a slave. Therefore, those of us that don't want to be a slave have the right to hassle and harass those who do want to be slaves to force them to wake up. But that raises the question: if we try to force them to wake up, are we going to hurt ourselves from a law of attraction, law of reflection standpoint, because the pain that we're inflicting upon those that don't want to wake up is going to manifest back to us? So there's a lot of questions there. But
I would gather to say probably yes, or some other way for the universe to wake you up out of that. Because I think you answered your own question there. Is, you know, no one should ever force anyone to try to wake up or force information on anyone else, or it's just because, again, people are exactly where they need to be. You know, everyone is exactly where they need to be, and it doesn't do any good. It doesn't. It's like be like trying to teach a dog to read a book. You know, if someone is just, that's where they're at, and that's where they need to be. And it's okay. The illusion is that we need everyone to like wake up now and know all the information and know what's going on the planet in order, or else we're going to fail. That's the illusion. There's this core fear that somehow we can fail this ascension mission, and we can't. We can't fail it. It's because, like you said, it's in the stars. It's in the stars. The Earth and the solar system, you know, is inside the photon belt. We are in this photon belt, this area of increased light that the Earth traverses every time it enters the age of Leo or the age of Aquarius, right? So the last time was 13,000 years ago when we were in Lemuria and Atlantis. And of course, at the end of the Atlantis and Lemurian period, there was what most channelings say was a nuclear fallout, and then the Earth went back into darkness. But it only went back into darkness in order for it to emerge into the light again. Nothing goes into darkness to stay in darkness. Okay, things go into darkness to emerge into light once again. So as we go deeper into the photon belt, and this is, we're in the age of Aquarius for 2,000 years. 2,000 years, Andrew. And we've only been in it for what? 6 years, maybe? 6 out of 2,000? So really, people need to kind of just, from my point of view, slow down a little bit, take a breath. It's a long process. It's not all going to be completed by 2019. It's not all going to be completed probably anytime soon. It's a very slow process from my point of view. I could be wrong, but just looking at it from how I see things, it's better to slow down. You do what you can do, and people wake up on their own time. Because it wouldn't do any good, obviously, for everyone on the planet to wake up right now. And there's the illusion. We think that it would. We think that, if all 8 billion people just woke up right now and, I don't know, overthrew the governments or whatever, that it would all be over and everyone would be happy. But it wouldn't work. The reason being is because there's a progression. People have to go through the spiritual journey. And if you don't mind, this is where I talk about the 3 simultaneous processes of ascension. This is very relevant to what I was just talking about. The 3 processes are: 1, there's a physical ascension process that is occurring in each and every person. Physical. So every organ and every single one of your cells must be reborn. Must be reborn. And this can take a very long time. Okay? It doesn't happen instantly. It happens more quickly for some than others, and it's based on your DNA. It's based on how much toxicity you have in your cells and in your organs. Okay? It's based on your life plan. It's based on how long it's meant for you to go through the physical ascension process. So that's number 1, and that's why people have chronic illness and ascension symptoms on the spiritual journey. This is what's going on. Okay, your body's going through an unprecedented transition period from being a 3D Homo sapien to a 5D Homo luminous or Homo divinus. Okay, the second simultaneous ascension process is that it's an emotional and karmic process, meaning that all underlined and bolded, all karmic and emotional debris, which we otherwise can call cellular debris or cellular trauma, must be transmuted into light. And the way that this happens is it's not with just a magic wand, or you go to one healer and he says, "Oh, you're done." No, this happens through circumstance. This happens through life. This happens through you encountering whatever is pre-planned for you on your life plan. And as this happens, you go through whatever emotions that you're meant to feel. You feel whatever emotions that you're meant to feel, and these are the emotions that are being cleared out of your system for you and for your ancestors, because you're also simultaneously, in a quantum sense, releasing this density out of each and every one of your ancestors. The third process is it's a process of a transition from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. And just like I talked about right in the beginning of this interview, is the ego structures. And what can be difficult to see are the ego structures that are also there during a spiritual journey. Being on a spiritual journey does not mean you're free of ego. It's quite the opposite. Being on a spiritual journey means you're on a journey of I don't like to use the word transcending. I like to use the word transitioning from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. And it's not something that happens with a snap of a finger either. It happens over a long period of life. It happens over a long period of going through circumstances, pre-planned circumstances on your life plan, and you learn, and these ego structures dissipate. And you embody more of your soul's light. And the way that you know, there's a couple ways to know, how deep or how strong your ego structures are. It's a couple questions to ask is, do you have a lot of conflict in your life? And then, if the answer is yes, you might say, well, it's because I'm this job, or, well, it's because of the Illuminati, or, well, it's because I'm sick, or, well, it's whatever. The part after the yes or no is irrelevant. Is, do you experience inner or outer conflict? And really, as your ego structures start to dissolve, you can be in a really shitty, uncomfortable situation, but there is a lack of conflict. There is a distinct lack of inner or outer conflict, and that starts to happen. So that's just one of the markers, but those three processes are happening at once. It's not, you don't work on one and then stop and go through another one. They happen at the same time. It's physical ascension, it's emotional and karmic transmutation, okay, which also it coincides with the physical, because the emotional energetic debris that is within you, often it's also related to physical imbalances. They're on this, if we think about it as like levels of the same field of reality. On one level you have the emotional, on one level you have the physical. So oftentimes when you're going through a deep physical cleansing process or chronic illness, you're also going through a lot of emotional releasing. And I think you could probably think of a time when that applied to you, Andrew. And I know a lot of people can think of a time when you felt that you were going through some sort of physical illness, but you were also going through emotional releases at the same time. Or like when you go to, a practitioner, like you go to a bodywork practitioner, Reiki, for example. You go to Reiki, and they're working on, it's physical healing, but it's also spiritual, and you're also might have emotional releases. It's because it's all tied together. And then, of course, the third being the process of transitioning from ego consciousness to soul consciousness. And so it's all happening at once. And that's why it would not actually be in the highest good if everyone woke up right now, because everyone needs to go through the entire process. There is no rushing ahead to complete this. That's one of the biggest illusions of the spiritual journey. That's one of the biggest illusions of the ascension journey, is I need to rush ahead and get this done and get the fuck off this planet. That is an illusion. You need to be here and stick it out, and it might take a while. And I know that's bad. It might be bad news for a lot of people, and I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but it's just, this is reality. I mean, there's a certain number of gates you need to pass through, is a great way to put it. There's a number of gates you need to pass through on your spiritual journey. And if you pass through a gate and you think you're done, that is 100% confirmation that you're not done. And you're probably not even close to being done. Because when you finally are done, there is no concept of being done. So I'm gonna leave you with that, Andrew.